time to get your fix. Come on down, get your horrible gaming review. 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 Wow.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming, and this is another horrible game review. As usual, before we get into it, we're going to do a couple of disclaimers. Number one, the word horrible in the title of this video does not necessarily refer to the content or game I am reviewing, but much more the video itself. I do snap judgment reviews here. I usually get about 5 to 10 hours with a game before I give you guys a review, because I'm trying to give you an idea of whether you're going to have fun right off the bat or not. Because of that, and the fact that I think video games is one of the most subjective forms of art, I do not give scored reviews. Instead, I will give you an overview of what the game is, then I will tell you the pros and cons of the game from my point of view, as all reviews are, and then I will tell you whether I personally will be sticking with the game outside the purposes of this review. Alright, business out of the way, let's get into it. It's finally out, it's finally here, a game I have been excited for since it was announced, really, and I've finally gotten to dive into it. I did a review on the beta, but this is a review on the full game, Back 4 Blood. It's finally here, finally got to play it. So did it live up to the hype? Did it live up to what it is? Well, we'll get into that later. But first, what is Back 4 Blood? So, if you played Left 4 Dead or Left 4 Dead 2 back in the day, you have a good idea of what this is. It's a co-op shooter. You and 3 friends pick your hero, and then you head into a series of maps, a series of levels that are very linear. You're trying to get from point A to point B while doing a task of some sort. They're usually about 15 to 20 minutes per little section, and the whole idea is just to move through these ever-increasing swarms of zombies. Mutated zombies, freak zombies, all sorts of zombies, start to finish, you'll come up against. As you go, you collect copper, which is a currency, on-the-fly currency to buy weapons and upgrades and other sorts of things. You'll also collect weapons, tools, med kits, healing, all sorts of things to make the trip easier. Then you have to work very cooperatively with the other 3 players to get through whatever mission that is in front of you. Unlike the old Left 4 Dead series, whereas the old Left 4 Dead you'd play an act, it was kind of like its own contained movie by itself, and it had usually 4 little levels that you'd go through with a big finale at the end. This does have that. It has 4 acts, and it has kind of like these contained levels with finales inside them. There is an overarching story that is told through the characters talking to each other, through the chaos of the levels, as well as quick, but really well done vignettes and story CG as you go along. There is, however, a host of other things that they have added to the old school Left 4 Dead formula here. They've added what's called a card system. Now, anybody who has followed the channel for a long period of time knows how I feel about card systems just being jammed into other types of games, but here it really works. Basically what you do is, as you go through runs, you collect things called supply points. At any given time, you will have 3 supply lines active between missions when you're back at Fort Hope, which is kind of your hub load-in sort of area. You can purchase things from supply lines, which are more cards. These cards are then handed out to you as you go through levels, and give you basically buffs and perks to make things easier. This makes the game really dynamic and interesting on the build level. Basically, you have up to 15 cards to put into a deck. And one thing I do want to say PSA, because I didn't realize this right off the rip, but the cards come in, they don't get shuffled, they come in the order you put them in the deck. So number 1, first card you start with every time, period. Then what happens is, between each level, whenever you hit a safe room and you're about to load into a level, you'll get the next 5 cards will pop up, and you'll get to pick which one you want to add in, and then that card is replaced by the next one in the row for the next level, and so on and so forth. It just keeps adding to your perks and buffs, but you have to be really selective about how you add to this deck. What's interesting about this too is every time you go in, even though the levels are the same, they kind of add a procedural generation to it. There is a lot of, like, the placement of the zombies obviously is going to be different every time, but you also get different loot spots in different places. There's also certain things, items such as a toolkit that will allow you to access rooms that you wouldn't normally access, and those are kind of like randomly spawned around the level. And to add even a bigger additional procedural kind of thing to it is there is such a thing as a corruption deck. Between each level, the bad guys also get to draw these like things that kind of change how you're dealing with the world. Some levels you might have to defeat a boss to get through. Other levels you have to collect certain supply lines to get through. And that changes per mission each time you go in. So it kind of gives a constant newness to those same levels, though you are playing the same levels over and over again. And of course, they didn't even stop there. Each one of the 8 characters that you can select to play as have their own powers and special abilities with them, which makes them a little bit more suited to certain types of play. Some of these kind of throat push them one way or the other for healing or shooting or whatever, but still, it is interesting. Even your character pick has an influence on how you go through things. When you play the campaign, you'll start a run, and every time you unlock, you get to the next level in the chain for the first time, you unlock that as a starting point for the next run. But don't worry about losing cards. The game knows how many cards you should have if you had started from the very beginning and got to this point. Each act itself, however, is a completely different run on its own, so when you finish an act, you go back to Fort Hope no matter what. The supply line thing usually has 5 slots, and those are randomly generated based on what it is. So, like, the clinic is always healing, but the cards you get that you can unlock from the clinic are not always the same. You also unlock all sorts of character customization options, as well as sprays and paints that people love from, like, battle royales and stuff, profile upgrades, pictures. Sorry about that. All sorts of stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's really the idea of this game. Is you go in again with a run with your buddies, you get as far as you can, then you drop out, you buy some more cards, and get back in. One thing that I want to really clarify here too is once you run out of cards from your deck, it just starts giving you these standard, very small incremental upgrade possibilities as your card draws, and they're nowhere near as good as cards themselves. So you almost have to kind of keep going in over and over again to even get enough cards to get a full deck to really make your run last as long as you want it to. Alright, I mean, that's really the overview of the game. It's a very simple and premise thing. The one thing I do want to add to that, though, is that you can play campaign, solo, or swarm mode. I do want to say right off the bat, I did not play swarm mode. I have no interest in a PvP here. The reviews of that mode have been very mixed online anyway, so if you're looking for a review on the swarm mode or the PvP, I'm not going to be able to give it to you. I have, like I said, I've got like 5 to 10, maybe 15 hours tops to really concentrate my review on things, and I concentrated on what I think people are going to get the most play out of, and that is solo and campaign. I did try solo, I did try campaign. Now with solo, you get 4 bots that replace players. They follow you around and do everything, but everything's turned off. Achievements, supply lines, everything. You do get the cards, but you get every card basically unlocked, and you can build the deck however you want for solo. With campaign, you have to unlock those cards, but you always have to be online. You might get 3 bots, but you always are online for people to jump back into your game. You can also set it up so that you can go into quick play. Quick play will just put you into a run in an act in which you have unlocked somewhere to basically aid a team already in play. I found some rewarding stuff from that, honestly. It wasn't nearly as bad as some people have been saying online where you just load in and die. There were some of those, but many times when I jumped into quick play, I found relatively decent, well thought out players that weren't terrible at this. So let's go into pros and cons. I always like to go positive first. So pros first. First of all, this game nails the Back 4 Blood feel. It really, really, really does. I'm sorry, the Left 4 Dead feel. If you like those Left 4 Dead games, but you wanted more out of that experience, you're gonna get that here. And I know a lot of reviews are saying you don't. You do, because you get the card system, you get a lot of customization, and there's much more replayability here. Is this game as fully realized and big as a lot of other AAA's out there? No, by no means. But if you want a Left 4 Dead experience plus, that's what you're going to get here. There's a lot more levels here. There's a lot more storytelling here. I felt much more attached to these characters than I ever did to any of the Left 4 Dead characters back in the day. So that is really something else. And I'm gonna just dovetail that right into my next pro, which is the story. Some people have really criticized the story being told in communication between characters. Other people have been okay with it. I love the story in this game. I love the way it's told, kind of incrementally, and I love that you get different chunks of it every time you play, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get you to play it over and over again, and they're trying to give you reasons to. So if I go in with Hoffman, one of the characters named Hoffman, if I go in with him, he responds to the words said on the other line differently than the way other people's do, and it kind of helps tell different shades of the story, different angles and parts of the story. Now I'm only in Act 2, so I couldn't even spoil this for you guys if I wanted to. But I am so far enjoying the storytelling here and enjoying the way they tell it. I also never feel like I'm not hearing the other characters talk, especially when I'm in quick play or I'm in online with 3 other people who are just silent. My third pro, and this is kind of a reversed pro from the beta. One thing about the beta is that the freaks and the special mutations, they never really felt unique. I never really felt like, oh, those guys. They changed that up here. I can honestly say the work that they've done on the freaks, and I can't quite put my finger on what it is, but I definitely fear the special mutations more. I'm much more aware of what they are, what they do, what they can do to me, instead of just being faceless parts of the fray that every once in a while I get hit with. The one that is especially irritating is the stalker. This version of the horker that leaps at you, grabs you from behind, and actually will drag you away to darker places where people can't shoot it from and just slowly kill you. I think that's really cool. It always inspired fear in me when those things grabbed you, which is that old school Left 4 Dead thing. I would have really liked a witch somewhere in here, some version of a witch. They don't really have that. They have what's called a snitch, which is just like kind of basically a walking alarm system. But I would have liked to see something like the witch from Left 4 Dead, but there's nothing like that in here. However, there are other characters. There's a card that you can get, which is a hag that's just hunting you. There's this big, massive creature that every once in a while shows up and will just start absolutely destroying you. I think that the special freaks, the work that they've done to make the special freaks feel like their own character, feel like something that, like an event in the battlefield, less than just a bigger version of a zombie you mow down, was really good. My next pro is another pro that's kind of a holdover from the beta. This one was a pro then, and it's still a pro now. The card system's amazing. And I can't tell you how excited I am to get new cards, how excited I am to play with them and play with the builds, go in with different builds of cards, different rows, and I love the fact that they don't get shuffled. Taking out that randomness means that I really get to pick what I'm getting when, and it just completely changes how the game feels and how the game plays, and I just love that. I love experimenting with it, and I love just fiddling with the decks. I've spent at least 20% of the time that I was playing this just playing with my decks and seeing what kind of combinations I could get out of it, seeing how I could build something out. I'm really looking forward to trying to build out some like crazy ideas, like maybe like a Molotov throwing build or something along those lines. I think that there's really some abject coolness with that card system, even though I wish they didn't even call it cards, because I don't think of them as cards. They're like perks, but I really like that system. I think that system really gives this kind of that oomph it needs between games that like a Left 4 Dead would need back in the day. My next pro is the level design. I think the level design is phenomenal. Now, I have heard some people say, some of my friends actually say it's a little bit repetitive at times, and it does get that way sometimes, because you're really the crux of a lot of things is either you're moving from point A to point B, or you're moving to point A to point B with an optional objective in between, or you're going to a place and then guarding that place from something or something. And while that's true, that can get a little bit boring. There is some really fantastic ways that they built just cool character stuff into this. I'm going to give you the example is a mission called Barroom Blitz. It's absolutely the best mission and probably one of my favorite levels of all time that I've ever played in game. Basically, what you have to do is you have to distract the zombie horde so that a bunch of survivors can get on a bus. To do this, you go across the street to a bar and you turn on a jukebox. And the jukebox has Black Betty on it, Ace of Spades from Motorhead, all sorts of crazy, like, fast-paced songs that play while you're fighting this horde that's trying to take out the jukebox. Absolutely one of the most fun I have ever had is playing that mission with Black Betty playing on the jukebox, just blaring, and you're just mowing down things in a bar. It was absolutely wonderful. It really gives you that power, like, yeah, it's great. But you know what? I'm going to use that one to go right into our first con, and probably our biggest con. That is DMC and lack of a streamer mode. Look, I know most of us players out there are not playing this on stream. Most of us players out there are just playing this to have fun, and that's cool if you're doing that. However, if you are a streamer, it has never been worse on the internet to have copyrighted music in your stuff than it is right now. You get demonetized on YouTube, and on Twitch you can even get your account banned. And it's so easy to accidentally have that stuff in the game and then get nailed with it. Barroom Blitz being the biggest problem. Those are all licensed musics. Even the developers have said right up the bat that you can get banned by that. That's rough. We need some way to have that experience without the possibility of banning. And I don't know what the solution is to that, but I gotta write it up as a con because it's a little bit irritating when I've got to do that mission. If I want to do it on stream, I gotta do that mission with the music off. There's also a jukebox in Fort Hope that plays some really cool just music while you're doing your card shifting and stuff, which I thought was a nice add for those moments. But if you're on stream with four other people and they don't even realize it, and one of them turns it on, you're getting banned and you had nothing to do with it. So that's a little bit of a problem. So I gotta set that up as a con. It just is. There needs to be some sort of like streamer mode or something where the game just filters it out if it comes on and you're on stream. My next con is the bot AI. Oh no, my next con is the solo. The solo. Bot AI is in here, but the solo mode. Solo mode is embarrassing. Let me explain why. If you are in solo mode, and I already mentioned this earlier in the review, you do not get achievements or accomplishments or whatever system you're on. You don't get them. You do not get any supply line stuff for cards because you have access to all of them, and you have to make individual decks for solo, which is annoying in itself. That means you can't test your decks in a solo mode. And on top of that, it's harder. It's harder because the AI is not great at gunfights. Like, they're not terrible. They ping everything there is, and they'll try to rescue you every time you go down. But overall, 3 bots makes it way more difficult than having other, even remotely smart players with you. So I don't know why this is there. Their reasoning is so that you can't just grind out supply line points for the campaign mode. But who cares? Like, the swarm mode, each one of these has their own cards. So like, you can't grind out supply points through the campaign to get swarm mode points to get you a better PvP experience. And the campaign is co-op. So who cares? Who cares? If you're on a different difficulty level, you're not going to be with anybody who's not on that difficulty level. So what does it matter if you ground it out there? Not to mention the fact, solo mode is way harder. It is made way harder by bad AI to actually get through. So why would it be beneficial to grind your supply points out there? Just wouldn't be. So there is absolutely no reason to play supply mode unless you're somebody who's like capturing video there or something like that, or trying to capture like the cutscenes or something like that, which obviously I did for the review here. All right, my final con isn't really a con, in my opinion, because it's not the way I play. But I do feel like I need to speak up for some of the people who are losing something here. There's a lot of people who love the Left 4 Deads for that live couch co-op experience in play. This game doesn't have it. It does not have split screen. It does not have any form of local co-op, which is kind of wrong. I'm not gonna lie, especially when you come from Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. Sorry, guys, and that really in-person kind of feel of things. And then to go here and not get it with the spiritual success, it's a little bit miserable. I'm not going to disagree with anybody out there who wants to have a complaint about that. I've already heard from two people who do think that like that would have been one of the reasons they played this. It was actually kind of a deal breaker for them, and that's a bummer. I do have some hopes that maybe if they get enough requests for it, they do add something like that later, because this would be fun to play in that manner. Now, I know we're running a little bit long, and I should be getting right to whether or not I'm going to stick with it. But there is one thing I want to address kind of in the in between. Now, one of the big complaints that I saw from some of the online reviews is that jumping into quick play or playing with randos is very difficult in this game because it's very difficult to play without coordinated kind of play with friends. I will say that is probably true at the higher levels. I specifically played this game almost the majority with it with just myself, going into either quick play or setting up my own run and doing it myself. I was pleasantly surprised that I never had this problem. Well, I won't say never. There was a couple of moments where I was jumping in and it was already kind of a lost cause and whatever, but it wasn't even really those players' faults. It was just a bad situation. Overall, I felt like with the ping system and the implementation of it in this game, which is good, just as good as Apex, that you can communicate without speaking relatively well. And I ran into much more often having to mute other players because they were blowing me out on my headphone speakers because of their mics or whatever. So I didn't really notice that problem. Again, I've only played for about 15 hours, and I've only played on the recruit difficulty. I'm sure on the higher difficulties you need a much more coordinated response. But while this game definitely will challenge you, I never felt like I was losing out on the experience without playing with people I specifically knew. So I just wanted to speak to that because other reviews have said that. That brings us to whether or not I'm going to stick with it, guys. I think you know what I'm going to say. Most assuredly. I thoroughly am impressed with this game. There's a couple of things I just want to shout out. It is a AAA game that is coming out that has almost no bugs that I've noticed. Nothing that has really crashed my game. No serious server issues. The beta did have some, but they obviously fixed that. This was one of the only games in a long time that I was able to do a launch stream with my friends and not have some sort of insane technical difficulty that cost us huge swaths of time. I really enjoy this game. I enjoy the things they added to it, and I enjoy I enjoy how well they also managed to keep to what a Left 4 Dead experience is, but bring it into the modern 2021 era of gaming. I think there is a lot of room to add to this game. I would love to see a local split screen added later. I'd love to see more missions and content coming later, and I'd love to see some more cosmetic options for the main characters. But other than that, there's a ton here right now. I am enjoying it. I'm going to be playing it for the foreseeable future, and I will go ahead and say, while this year has been limited, it is at the top of my Game of the Year list right now. So, that being said, I hope that helped you guys out. I hope that helped you make a decision as to whether or not you wanted to play it or not. If you liked what we said, or you didn't like what I said, please comment below, let me know, and also give us a subscribe. You can also contact us on Facebook at OldManGamingDH, on Twitter at OldManGaming9. You can join our Discord. Link will be in the description below. Also check us out on Twitch, twitch.tv/OldManGamingDH. And as long as you guys keep watching and listening, we'll keep making them. See you guys next time.